Meine Damen und Herren, vielen Dank für Ihren Interesse und Zeit. Mark, thanks for the opportunity. Here to represent Emerald Health Therapeutics. I'm actually with a company, a venture company called Emerald Health Sciences, which has a broader portfolio of companies all focused on cannabis and cannabinoids. This is our primary company that we've been putting the most energy into the last period of time. What am I hitting here, the green button? So you know all about forward-looking statements, won't dwell on that. So Mark, you had some great signage here, which was unexpected. Not everybody puts this type of information out. I'm going to talk about a couple things. Interestingly, there was a sign that talked about the endocannabinoid system. And the signage that Mark and the conference put out here has a lot of great information about where cannabis has come from and why it's important. I just want to talk about a couple of things because our company has a group of people that are all very much from the life sciences world, and we have a very strong, we look at the cannabis world with the lens of life sciences. So the endocannabinoid system is something that exists in the body, and the reason cannabis has an effect, whether it's a psychoactive effect, whether it makes you high, or whether it's a medicinal effect that so many people talk about, it's because there is a system in the body that actually has receptors and actually makes cannabinoids. And this system interacts with various organs and controls different functions in the body to regulate anxiety, sleep, pain, hunger, all kinds of different things. So it's not just an accident, there's a reason. The fact is that the cannabis plant is a primary source of what are called cannabinoids, the chemical compounds that interact with the endocannabinoid system or are part of it. There's almost 150 different cannabinoids. We only hear about one key one, or we only heard about one key one for the longest time, which was THC. And now we hear a lot about CBD, but there's a whole bunch of other cannabinoids as well that are thought to have other medicinal benefits. Cannabinoids can be grown or can be derived from the cannabis plant. They can also be made synthetically. And there's even ingredients in non-cannabis plants that can actually have effects on the endocannabinoid system. And I bring that up because I'm going to mention a particular project that we're working on as well a little bit further into the presentation. Interesting fun fact, but an important fact, is cannabis is as addictive as caffeine. So we can't say it's not addictive, but the notion that it should have been put on to become a Schedule I drug alongside heroin was pretty ridiculous in the first place. There's a few reasons, and no good reasons, why cannabis is illegal in the world, and that's because of power, politics, and prejudice. But there's never been a big clinical study that said that cannabis is really dangerous and deserved to be equated to heroin. There's no overdoses from cannabis. There might be other, smoking something is perhaps not the best way to consume a compound, no matter how good it might be for you. But there are no overdose deaths from cannabis itself reported. I'm not going to walk all through this, but the bottom line is there's all kinds of different benefits that people believe cannabis has provided. Most of it is anecdotal. It's people's experience. However, our industry has had a great benefit from a particular company that is more in the drug world called GW Pharma, which recently, earlier this year, received approval from the FDA for a CBD-based drug for epilepsy. And when you have picture in your mind children having hundreds of seizures a day from epilepsy and then having this drug that can help them, that's a pretty compelling outcome. So they've taken the time and spent the capital to go down this path and have taken a big step that helps reduce the stigma and the misunderstandings in this world of cannabis. So Emerald Health Therapeutics is very focused on, I don't know if this, maybe no pointer here, but Emerald is very focused on product innovation. I mentioned the people and the lens that we look at it through. So 3 pillars as far as what we're doing to build our company is to look at product development and innovation. Obviously, to be in a space, to be in an industry where you're coming from illegal to legal, there is no extensive legal supply. So to be in the game, you have to have production, and I say sourcing, because there are going to be opportunities where you don't necessarily have to be producing all of your own product. And then branding is going to be an important element, but also a challenging element. In Canada, initially, the framework for recreational legalization basically places cannabis advertising and branding in the almost more in the realm of tobacco than in alcohol. So it is difficult, but still there are important opportunities for differentiation. I'm going to talk a bit about our people first, because talking about this life sciences lens, the people who are driving the ship. So our CEO, Chris Wagner, who couldn't be here, unfortunately, spent 25 years in the pharmaceutical industry. He was at Eli Lilly for 10 years and was involved in launching 13 drugs that all became billion-dollar-plus drugs, including some products that you may have heard of called Cialis and Prozac. We have other people that have spent all their adult career in the biotechnology industry, in QA, for example. We have a PhD in genetics. On our board, a key driver behind the whole enterprise is Avtar Dhillon, who was a practicing family physician for about a dozen years in Vancouver, then worked in life sciences venture capital for a few years, and was asked at one point to become the CEO of a biotechnology company down in San Diego. And he's still the chairman of that company today. Around the board, and then also on our scientific advisory board, you see a lot of PhDs and MDs, people that have been involved in different aspects of medicine, such as dealing with pain and having expertise with opioids, which you're probably aware is a big issue in North America. People that have been doing cannabinoid research for over 15 years. So we've got a couple people that are actually part of a company that we own, not Emerald Health Therapeutics, but within our portfolio, we have a company in Spain, in Cordoba, with a couple individuals who have been doing cannabis research for many, many years. And so this is what's driving the focus in our company and how we move forward. So I'm going to talk a bit about production first. We never aimed to be the biggest farmer, so to speak, on October 17th, which was the day that recreational use became legalized in Canada last year. No disrespect to farmers. We have some excellent and very deep farming expertise within our company, as well as with a partner that we established a relationship with. But so we had waited until some of the key legislative steps became clear in 2017 before we really moved forward. And when we did, we moved forward in a pretty big fashion. But today we have a big facility in Vancouver. We have an indoor facility in Quebec. And then more recently, we made an announcement that we had acquired or secured the harvest from hemp from 400 hectares in 2 different provinces in Canada, and next year and beyond, 800 hectares. And this was a sourcing deal. We didn't buy the land, we didn't grow it, we were involved in the harvesting. So this is a new step, sort of looking at the horizon, what's going to be possible as far as sourcing the core ingredients. This is going to become potentially a very important opportunity for us. So last year, 2017, we established a joint venture with one of the largest greenhouse growers of vegetables in North America. The company's called Village Farms. They're experts in growing in large scale. We bring to the table extensive, deep cannabis expertise, understanding about the plants, understanding about growing. We created a 50-50 joint venture for this particular facility in the Vancouver area. This is about 100,000 square meters, 19 football fields. It's one of the largest facilities in Canada. And we didn't acquire this for the metal and the glass specifically. I mean, it helped us to accelerate our process. But again, the critical element was the expertise contained or possessed by the company, by the people that have been running this. So they've been working with extensive data collection analyses over the years and are really great at being able to optimize the yield and the growing of these particular crops. We expect to be able, we're being conservative and saying we expect to be able to blow well below $1 a gram in Canadian dollars. And this facility is now half built out. So inside this facility, we're not showing all the pictures, but we basically gutted it. We took out everything that was there, and we put in very sophisticated new systems for heating, for ventilation, for all the climate control. A lot of the data controls, data collection was already there. We were putting in supplemental lighting, and then you also have shading. So this particular facility is about half built out right now. licensed. Actually, the building out is beyond half, but it's licensed for half, and we have plants in pretty much the first half at this point. So it's actually a very sophisticated system within a greenhouse type of structure. And the reality is a plant is a living thing. There's always going to be various challenges. It doesn't matter what the environment is. There's always going to be challenges as far as some of the different things that can affect plants. The question is how you deal with it and what kind of yield and optimization are you able to achieve. We recently hired a CEO for this joint venture, which is called Pure Sun Farms. He came from Ontario, from the liquor distribution board in that province, which is responsible for the sales and distribution of cannabis as well. This is a picture of a facility that we have in Quebec. This is 75,000 square feet, which might be in the order of roughly 7,500 square meters, let's say. I didn't talk about the production. In the greenhouse, the big greenhouse, conservatively, it's going to grow over 75,000 kilograms a year. This facility, we're looking at about 10,000 kilograms. And this puts us in an environment, as Danny was talking about, which is one of the large populated provinces in Canada, and also very low-cost energy and water and so on. This was a bit of a departure, and an important step for us in being able to source in particular CBD, which comes from hemp, and we haven't talked yet about what we expect to get out of that. There's a lot of variables, but we're going to be extracting that hemp for CBD. So across Canada, we have supply agreements in 3 different provinces, British Columbia being the biggest right now. So we're set up from that perspective. Our scaling of our production is going to be very dramatic from this point forward. We hadn't been producing large amounts and didn't have a lot of inventory earlier in the year, but at this point we're going to have very dramatic increases in production from every quarter going forward from here. In terms of our marketing, so in Canada, in the medical system that we had, in the end the sale is made directly to the consumer, to the patient when they register with you. In the recreational environment, I think as Danny mentioned, you're going to be selling to each individual province. We did some marketing research, and one of the things we found was that 60% of users of cannabis are also users of natural health products. And this is important because, at least initially, cannabis cannot go through natural health product stores, can't be sold in grocery stores, can't be sold in pharmacies. There may be a point in time where we see a separation of how governments in Canada, for example, or how the Canadian government and maybe in other jurisdictions internationally view, and you can already see some of these trends, a separation between how THC or a psychoactive cannabinoid is viewed versus how a non-psychoactive cannabinoid is viewed. So in the past, everybody just talked about cannabis, and cannabis was illegal, that was it. But there's good reason for it to be separated. If something's not psychoactive, why place it under the same rules? So there may be an opportunity or a point when CBD becomes sold through these other types of channels, but today that's not the case. So we have a product line that was created by one of our sister companies. I mentioned earlier about how you can have plant ingredients affecting the endocannabinoid system without it being from cannabis. So we have a product line that we're bringing in from this other company into Canada, and it will have access to these channels. It's going to give us an opportunity to have cross-marketing, cross-branding benefits, and have the Emerald name out there in different channels. And we're working with one of the largest advertising agencies in Canada to help with our branding and our communication, our marketing. Our executive VP of Sales and Marketing is ex-AB InBev, ex-Philip Morris, ex-Kraft, ex-Coca-Cola. So he has that expertise, but we're also working with outside expertise as well. So where we're going in terms of the product innovation is from the bottom right. Everybody has dried flower, and that's great. Everybody has oils, and there are companies that already have soft gels and pills and different things and different forms of delivery. We're very focused on the marketplace that we would call, let's say, 45-year-old people plus or minus. What's interesting is I sort of joke now that if you put 5 people in a circle, I would almost guarantee that at least one person will have a first-hand story. Maybe only a second-hand story, but probably a first-hand story about using cannabis. Not because they're trying to get high, but because they want to use it for a medicinal benefit. And largely, it's very much for pain and for sleep, but there's so many other applications. And I hear stories about the 92-year-old client of a broker in Toronto who's actually smoking cannabis to help her with her sleep. But it may not be the best form of taking it. But it's across the spectrum, and it's like people are coming out of the closet. It's quite fascinating. So where we want to be going is towards the top right. And you will hear a lot of talk about beverages. And there's a lot of logic to that, and a lot of great reasons why that's going to be important. But it's not going to be the only form of delivery by any stretch, and it's not going to be necessarily the only industry for getting these products out there. If you're looking for medicinal benefits, you don't necessarily end up with a product from a pharmacy store or a natural health food store that's in a liquid format. But everything's going to there's going to be all kinds of different ways of doing it. People will want different forms, and that's fantastic. We made another very, very strategic relationship that we announced about 6 or 8 weeks ago. We formed a strategic alliance with the largest natural health product company in Canada. It's called the Factors Group of nutritional companies. They're a private company, so they don't like to brag too much about all their claims to fame. But they do what's called private labeling or white labeling. So they are one of the largest manufacturers in Canada making products on behalf of big retail names that are basically household names. And they have a presence in about 50 different countries around the world. We did this deal for, again, the same reason as we did the deal with the large vegetable grower. We wanted to access their expertise and their many decades of product innovation expertise and experience in manufacturing and so on. One of the things that we also access specifically is a facility in British Columbia that has capacity to process 1 million kilograms of plant material for extraction. That's a lot of material. We don't have an obligation to use that. We're not buying it. We didn't have to put down the capital costs, but we have access to that capacity and the expertise. In that facility, they can also encapsulate 600 million soft gels. So a soft gel, just to be clear, there was the pill I had on the other slide. A soft gel is just a form where it's squishy, and then it's used for a lot of different supplements and different types of natural health products. So this is a very important deal for us in terms of how we move forward with our product innovation and our product manufacturing capabilities. We're also very focused then on even taking things to a higher level, which is to leverage all the life sciences expertise that we have around the table. And where we want to be is in a position where we have intellectual property that is ideally quite differentiated. It's not going to be the easiest thing to do. There's lots of really smart, great people in all the different companies that you're going to hear about today in Canada and then other places in the world. But we're going to be trying to carve out positioning and provide capabilities where we can help consumers be able to consume with confidence. So, Danny had already mentioned the whole thing about the edibles and whether you really know what you're getting and the time that it takes for onset and how long it lasts and so on. If you're talking about something that you're using for a medicinal purpose, you want a better amount of control over what you're getting. You want to know that there's consistency. And so we're trying to offer products for what we call purposeful people that are looking for a particular type of outcome. So we're going to be looking at different forms of the products, different delivery methods, and so on. And we're not really exposing in detail what that looks like yet, but we filed for 17 patents, and that's the path we're on. We've also established a relationship between one of our sister companies. So I mentioned the company in Spain with the individuals that have been doing cannabinoid research for over 15 years. We've established a relationship between that company, which is called VivaCell, and with Emerald Health Therapeutics to also focus on research and development and innovation. And this is just an example of their work. On the right there is a study that was published in the British Journal of Pharmacology, which is a very respected scientific journal. The two individuals, Giovanni Appendino and Eduardo Munoz, conducted a study that was focused on assessing the neuroprotective capabilities of THCA, which is a precursor to THC. So we're actually working with the University of British Columbia. We're at an early stage with certain studies that we're planning to conduct, and there'll be more details about that over time. But that's the end of the spectrum that we're very focused on. So 2018, 2019, it's sort of a blend here as far as things that we've achieved and things we're aiming for. But our goal was, again, to be in the game, you do have to have some of your own production, and it should be reasonably significant. So we've done that with a very sophisticated facility that is going to have very large capacity. We are putting the wheels in motion for very large-scale extraction. We are going to be moving forward with different types of studies. We won't necessarily be going through the whole clinical path with all the time and capital to go through registration, but that remains to be determined. There's big opportunities for that. The issue is whether you actually own strong enough intellectual property to justify the time and the cost. But we're going to be putting a lot of effort into the product development. We've got various new products that we're going to be launching, and we do have in place the distribution agreements and so on, the supply agreements that will allow us to sell. So we're well positioned for significant growth over the next period of time. We trade on the TSX Venture, also trade on the OTC, and we do trade in Frankfurt under the symbol TBD. If your English is great, and you know that TBD means to be determined, which is the stupidest symbol you could ever have. But that's what we ended up with in Frankfurt for some reason. We have 135 million shares outstanding, so our share structure is actually still reasonably tight. It's widely held by retail shareholders, and we've had about 73 million in cash as of June 30th. So we're funded for all the projects that I've talked to you about. And I would position that you're going to hear about a lot of fantastic companies today, and we all have our different angles that we're trying to propose. I think for this company, if the notion of really looking at the medicinal benefits and being on that path is of interest to you, and having a share structure that's actually still fairly attractive, then Emerald is a company that you should give some further attention to. And with that, I'll stop there. Thank you.